Why might a dog need a dog stroller? I talk a lot about the benefits of having a dog stroller and how to use it during the in-between years, but we get a lot of questions on why a dog would ever need a stroller and a lot of really nasty people saying dogs should be walking instead of riding in a stroller. Now, I have had dogs my entire life, and I've only recently acquired a dog stroller to learn the benefits of it. And I started out by buying this for my senior dog, Lacey. We had just lost Jada, we were all devastated, and we started to do more walks in the park with our dog. And Lacey is old. She's older than Jada was, and she had hip trouble. She couldn't do full walks, and so we had to go for very short walks, and then we had to make sure we weren't going a little too far and then having to carry her back because we misjudged a little bit. We wanted to make sure she was healthy, but still able to get out and do things and live a life without her sister. And so we started off by putting in her wagon, and she hated that. She would not stay in it at all. We eventually leveled up to a dog stroller that was enclosed so that she could go for those walks. And we used this in a way where she was not in the stroller for most of the time. We went to wherever we were walking and we let her walk as far as she could. And when we started to get worried about her hips or about if she was huffing and puffing a little bit too much, we would take her and put her in the stroller. Now we also have a small dog, and small dogs can't do the long walks the big dogs can, so she would go in the stroller as well, and they would be able to sit with each other as we walked for a little bit longer, or we would walk back to the car so that they didn't have to do it. We also use this in a way where we'd let them walk a little bit and then ride a little bit and then walk a little bit and then ride a little bit so that we could go further on the paths and the trails as we were walking so they could see and explore new things. And this allowed them to be able to sniff around and to learn and to engage, but also to rest a little bit so that they could see more and explore more and do more and be a part of what we were doing without having to push them too far, without having to stress them out. And so having that stroller was really, really nice. Now, another benefit to that is that if there's an area that's maybe not clean or not safe for your dog to be out because it rained and there's mud and there's stuff and it's not cleaned up yet, you can just pop your dog right in the stroller. If you go somewhere like a park and all of a sudden you run into a big crowd because there's an event you didn't know about and you're worried about people stepping on your dog or getting through a crowded area, you can just pick them up and put them in the stroller and you're good to go. So we had it for my senior dog, and that allowed her to explore life, to be able to do more without risking her health. When she passed, I eventually got new puppies. And with that in mind, I now had little dogs who were not allowed to be in public on the ground yet because puppies cannot go into public and be on the ground in public space until they have all their vaccinations. And so there were actual months, because they have to space those things out, where my dog could not be in public, but I did want to start her socialization training. And so my puppy would go to the park with us, and she would ride exclusively in the stroller for her first couple of walks as we did this. This way, she was able to get to know the area. She could see people, she could hear people, she could smell people, but she could not get up to them. She was not getting entangled with other dogs. And my favorite part, the people who insist on touching your dog without your permission could not get to her because she was in a stroller. So even if they leaned down and tried to touch, there was still that mesh netting in between her and the people who were not asking permission to be putting their hands on my dog. And so this was a really good opportunity for me to give her some early socialization, to learn about people, to learn about watching without barking or engaging or doing things. It allowed her to understand how we would in the future be taking walks and going to the park and interacting with people and doing all of those things. It allowed her to get out and get some fresh air and to see new faces and new spaces so that it wasn't just our yard. And it allowed us to then continue our own exercise as we were out walking and taking care of ourselves physically without having to stay home with the puppy or leave the puppy trapped in a crate. So this was a really good bonding experience. It was really good for socialization. It was really good for keeping her safe as we were out and about. It also works because once she was fully vaccinated and was allowed to walk, now I have a safe space for her. So I can put my puppies inside of the stroller and nobody can touch them. They're not going to get dirty. They're not going to get into anything. And so I have the ability to take it with me, and they can walk for the distance that they can walk because little legs, little babies. Walk for the distance they can walk, then pop them in the stroller for a little bit, then let them back out when they're ready to come back out. So we traded on and off just like we did with my senior dog, allowing them to get their exercise without pushing them too far, but still allowing them to be a part of the world and do things that we were going to do as they grew older. I also really like strollers, especially for smaller puppies or those senior dogs, for those in-between times as well. So I will take, and I've talked about this in other videos, I'll take my stroller with me if I'm going into town and I'm going to stop at a dog-friendly cafe or cafe that has seating outside that allows dogs to be there, and I'll just pop my dog right in the stroller. While I'm eating lunch, now they're not on the concrete that could be cold or hard or really hot from the sun, or where they can get things that people have dropped or have insects crawl on them. Now they're in a safe environment up off the ground a little bit in their strollers where they can just rest, and they can have that resting moment because they know that's a safe space for them and they can relax there. So when I'm going out to eat, when I'm doing things, when I'm going to be in a public setting, I like to put them inside of the stroller so that I don't have to worry about them. Everything is good. And then I can be right there and move that zipper, and I can pet them and I can play with them and I can take them out if I want. But it gives them a safe space to be that's cool and shaded and whatever I need it to be. I also really like it because I can take it to places like hotels. So when I'm traveling, I can get them from the car. So my almost grown puppy dogs, I now put them inside of the stroller to get them from the car inside of the pet-friendly hotels so that I don't have to deal with the lobby and the elevator and people as I'm trying to get everybody and everything into the hotel rooms. I also use them as places for my dogs to sleep in the hotel room so they don't have to sleep on the hard floor, especially if a hotel is dog friendly but not necessarily dog accommodating. So that's a better place for me to allow them to sleep. They're more comfortable there. And I can then double that up because not only can I bring my dogs into the hotel and out of the hotel in there, I can then leave them in the room and go down and get the suitcases and put them in the stroller and just wheel that right on up. It's a win-win all the way around. But there's a lot of benefits to having those strollers during the in-between years. But I highly recommend strollers, dog strollers, for senior dogs who cannot do full walks and puppies who cannot do full walks or puppies who cannot be in public. This is also, again, I talked about socialization for the puppies, but it's really good for socialization. I took my dogs to a farmer's market, a very crowded, very overwhelming farmer's market, kept them right inside of the stroller so they could go and do and see everything and understand who the people were and what was going on without being stepped on, without me having to worry about them eating things they shouldn't, all of those things. So that's really, really helpful. Even if you have a dog in the in-between years, if you are going to a very crowded location and you want to make sure you've got a controlled environment that they're not going to get hurt in, a stroller just to walk through that area is going to be really helpful. You will not use it necessarily as much in the in-between years. So if you get it for your puppy, you're going to have a set of years where you're really not using it very much because they're old enough and physically capable of doing most things on their own. But when they get to that senior stage, you are going to want that. And I started off with the senior stage. My dog needed that. And then I was so incredibly grateful I had that for my puppies. It's a game changer. Yes, it's a little bit of a monetary investment, and use it on two sides of their life. You don't necessarily use it as much in the middle stages, but I give you lots of examples here on the channel on how to use it to make sure it's cost effective for you. But you want to make sure that you are doing what is best for your dog. So if you don't want to use a stroller, you're not going to go out in public. You're not going to put them in a situation where they're going to have to walk a long distance. You're going to avoid those things. And if that's what you want to do with your lifestyle, by all means, do that. That's the best thing for your dog if that's the best thing for your dog. But if you want to invest in a stroller, now you have access to different things in the world. It's a monetary investment. You do have to take up space with the stroller if you're taking it on vacation with you to the boardwalk at the beach, if you are taking it wherever you happen to be going, if you're going to an event, if you're going to friends and family, you're taking it with you. It takes up space in your trunk. I understand that. It's a trade-off. So what is going to work best for you and your dog? For me and my dogs, I love the stroller. We love the strollers. The strollers are incredibly helpful to us. I said I got more than one. I now own 2 strollers because my dogs are bigger. And there are still situations, even though my dogs are almost a year old, there are still situations I am using that in and will continue throughout their life to be using that in, especially when I'm traveling. I will be taking that with me. So I invested in another one because they're so functional for us. It depends on what you are doing with your dog and what's going to work best for you. So do your research on strollers. They're not all created the same. The second stroller I bought was a different version from a different company, and it is not great. It is not at all great, but it was a significant price difference because of the way that it was built. And so for that, and for the reasons I'm going to be using it during those in-between years of their life, I'm fine with the way that it is, but it wasn't be one that I recommended to you. There is one I recommend to you. I'll actually link the review down below. I love it. It works really, really well. It is big enough for everything that I'm doing, but because I have multiple dogs, now that they've grown, it's not quite big enough for everything. But it's really, really helpful. So you do your research on this one. Make sure you know what's going to work best for you and your lifestyle, your functionality, and what you're going to be able to do with your dog and your space and your lifestyle, and then invest in it if it's going to be a good fit for you. It's not going to be a good fit for everybody. And I understand that. And you are smart enough to understand that as well. So if this is a good fit for you, jump in, do your research, get that stroller. And if not, accommodate your lifestyle to what you've chosen to do. Follow along for more tips and tricks on how you can thrive as a dog parent and tools like strollers and enrichment tools and all sorts of things to help you and your dog to grow as your family and to make this the best life possible for both of you. And if there's products that I should be trying on your behalf to give you reviews, go ahead and let me know so that we can make this as easy as possible for you to thrive as a dog parent. We'll see you in the upcoming episodes.